Welcome back to the Essendon Football Club Annual General Meeting and Members Forum. Now joined by new Senior Coach Ben Rutten and GM of List and Recruiting Adrian Dodoro. Thank you, gentlemen, both for your time this evening. Please remember throughout tonight, members, if you have any questions, please enter them via your Lumi screen and we'll ask the boys those questions very shortly. First of all, to you, Ben, it's been an energising time welcoming new draftees and recruits in recent months. You've clearly, by the look of it, recruited from the long term, and on paper Essendon is much, it's a bit younger. What's the most exciting part for you, and what should we expect from this batch of new recruits that we're seeing come into the club in recent weeks?
Yeah, thanks, Jules. I mean, this time of year is always a really exciting one, but you know, we've just brought in 5 new fresh faces into our footy club, and they've spent their first couple of days here, which has been fantastic. To go along with that, we've brought in 3 guys through the trade, with Jai Caldwell, Peter Wright, and also Nick Hind. We've brought him back to Essendon, who was part of our VFL program. So it's always an exciting time of year when you get new fresh faces in. We've also into our second week of training as well, where our 1st to 5-year guys have returned and really presented themselves in really terrific physical condition. They've been joined by some experienced guys as well who are just eager to train. So although we have got some inexperience on our list now, that also brings great opportunity and excitement. And they'll get really well supported by Hep and Hurls and Cale Hooker, Dave Zarak as our more experienced players. We'll do a great job of leading those guys. Interesting
project that's underway at the club at the moment, and of course Essendon's got a proud history, and all this is being draped on the walls at the footy club right now. Can you tell us about this and why the connection to the past is so important to you?
Yeah, look, it is. I mean, I think Essendon has such a rich history. You know, 150 years old, some great people, some great success. And that's, I think it's really important that we as players, as coaches, as staff at the Essendon Football Club have a really good understanding of our past and where we've come from and the people who have walked before us. And that understanding about who we represent and the people that have come before us will help us to, you know, write our own chapter in the Essendon Football Club's history. And that's something I'm really keen to bring into all members of our footy department, and especially our players. I think it's important that they understand and really acknowledge that you know, the sacrifice and what's happened in the past and why they've been able to have the opportunity that they've got in front of them to be Essendon football players.
Any images of Adrian up on the walls?
No, they're all in his office.
Adrian, welcome to you. It's been a massive couple of months for you both with the trade period and the draft last week. Just take us through what the list management strategy was going in first to the trade period and then last week's national and rookie drafts.
Yeah, thanks, Jules. Look, it was a really interesting time. Obviously, with what happened this year, it made it really difficult to go and watch football around the country. So we were really limited in what we could see and what we could do. And obviously, even with communication, Ben was up in Queensland, I was down here. So it presented a lot of challenges this year for us. But obviously the number one thought was to get top-end talent back into the club this year. We'd gone to previous trade periods and traded for Shields, Sard, Smith, Stringer, all good players and you know, all proved to be, you know, great selections. But we hadn't gone to the draft, and we really wanted to do that this year. So that was one thing. But suffice to say, you know, losing Joey and Sardi and, you know, obviously Fantasia McKenna did change our list management strategy to a degree. We had to sit back and have a look at the draft pool this year, and one of the biggest challenges was obviously not seeing a lot of these boys play. And we were able to obtain those 3 early selections, and the 3 boys that we got with those early selections at least had form at 17 years of age. So we wanted to take as much of that not negativity, but as much as that guesswork out of the draft as possible. So we thought we did really well. So the strategy was elite talent, obviously, as Ben mentioned, to get Caldwell and Peter Wright, also they were first round draft picks in their years, relatively young. That gives us 5 first rounders onto the list. So we ticked the box that we wanted to in that instance.
You touched on it there, but how difficult was it from a recruiting point of view this year when the majority of the draft pool of Victorian teenagers and they couldn't play any footy this year? How difficult did that make it, weighing them up against, you know, we see a lot of players out of the SANFL drafted this year, for example. How difficult was it to weigh up those decisions come the draft period this year?
Oh, it was extremely difficult because obviously it was stop-start for everyone, but these boys They varied in the amount of work they'd done in their pre-season. Some of them did a pre-season, then the season stopped. In Western Australia, South Australia, a lot of those boys then had to get going again. So it was difficult to assess talent from that perspective. That's why it was really good to get those 3 early picks. And as I said, to have some data at 17 years of age was a huge advantage for us. It's an unknown draft in many respects this year, and a lot of clubs will be, just wondering what it will bring in 5 years' time. But I think that we're really confident with the boys we selected. And the other thing was our later 2 selections were NGA players who had been with us, so we had a lot of data on them as well. So the 5 boys that we brought in, we're really confident that they'll be very good AFL footballers.
And we'll hear from one of those, Nick Cox, very shortly. Of course, there's been a few key appointments being made to the coaching and football department in the off-season. We'll hear from one of those, Josh Marnie, very shortly. But another new face at Essendon this year is senior assistant coach Daniel Giansiracusa.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. How does it feel to be at only your second AFL club in 20 years of AFL?
Yeah, it is a bit strange, I must admit. Waking up this morning and putting the black and red on is definitely different after being at the Bulldogs for 21 years, but really excited about the challenge. Everyone's been extremely welcoming so far.
So how did the move to Essendon come about? Take us through that.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. Obviously, we're in the hub together at times at the Royal Pines, but it all sort of eventuated after the season. Bulldogs were still playing, Essendon finished up and Truck got in contact and we had a first initial conversation. Bulldogs were still playing, as I said, so he sort of left me alone for a few weeks, and once I got back to Melbourne we had a chat and we connected really well, got similar ideas and views on things, and was excited by the chance to move and see a different organisation, and jumped at the chance that was given to me.
What were those ideas and philosophies that you shared with Truck that really appealed to you?
I think the education side of some of the things that Truck's going to put in place, both for the coaches and the players. He's done similar courses to what I've done throughout my coaching journey. We played against each other. There was just a connection straight away that I felt comfortable with him, and another opportunity to learn from not only him but the other coaches here, and hopefully have success, which is what we're all looking for.
Welcome back. Great to have Daniel Giansiracusa on board. And Ben, I'm going to ask you about Daniel. Of course, he was the 2020 AFL Coaches Association Assistant Coach of the Year. We almost lost him before he started, given he got deep into the North Melbourne process. But how's he settled in so far, and what new ideas will he bring to the footy club?
Yeah, look, G's been great for us. I think I'm really thrilled to be able to bring him to the club. He was someone that, I'd sort of been keeping a bit of an eye on over his progression as a coaching. He brings great experience as a player, but also he's come out of a really strong program at the Bulldogs, a successful program. In 2016, he was part of the coaching panel when they won the premiership. And I think we've just connected really well. We philosophically aligned on the way the game should be played, but he's also a really strong relationships coach, and he puts that first, and he coaches not only the footballer but the whole person, and that's something that I'm really big on, and I want that to be a hallmark of our coaching group. But G's been fantastic. He brought a real sense of enthusiasm. He's a great learner, and he really wants to push our players to get better. We've seen him for a couple of weeks, but he's got so much growth and upside for us, and I know he'll really connect well with our players.